The name Perrier in Champagne conjures up thoughts around history and prestige. In the case of Joseph Perrier, the spirit of the house is evoked by tradition, quality, and particularly family. Since 1825, it has been managed largely by a succession of fathers and sons, but 6 generations on, Joseph Perrier remains an independent and authentic family-managed maison under the stewardship of Managing Director and family member Benjamin Fourmon. With Benjamin at the helm, the Maison has gained an elevated vision around quality and refinement, but also modernisation with gusto and energy. Recently, the house revealed itself in a new light with a rebrand to highlight their aspirations for luminosity and positivity. It was my pleasure to sit down with Benjamin Fourmon to discuss the Maison's evolution during this interview. So welcome, Benjamin. It's a pleasure to have you with us here today. Joseph Perrier has an incredible history in Champagne, going back almost 2 centuries to 1825. It is unusually independent and family-run, with you at the helm as managing director after some 6 generations. You seem to have a lot of passion and energy also for your role that you've taken on. So what was it like transitioning into this role in 2019, succeeding your father, and what did you see as being the key challenges or opportunities?
Hello, Sarah. Thank you very much for this question. It was not so easy. It was easy to join the company because I joined the company in 2014. And the transition was not so easy. It was not so easy because when you are alone at the head of a close to bicentenary company, you have always plenty of challenge. When I arrived, the first things I want to make is to open the doors of the Champagne house because we were close to the public at this time. And for me, it was very important for the public, for the passionate people who like Champagne. They need and they have to visit Joseph Perrier to feel who we are and what we want to do. So it was one of my first decisions with my father and with me after to follow this renovation. And it was very important. The second thing is, when you have a team, the team of my father were there and I am the son of, and it's always a challenge to be the son of. It's easy and it is a challenge because when you arrive in a company with their own process, when you want to change something of a company you have close to 200 years and the same manager since 40 years, it was not so easy. Just a quick, I can say a funny fact, but when I arrived in 2019, in 2018, as a deputy general manager, I put the Wi-Fi in the company. There is no Wi-Fi by the past. So you see where we are. So it was a digital generational impact. So it was another challenge, change a little bit the process, but you don't change what other things which work, fundamentals. And the fundamental was very good. So, I changed some things and I have plenty of projects who will come, renovation and continuing, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So modernization.
Yeah, modernization.
Yes, that's right.
And it was also 2019. For me, it was easy in 2019 because it was a classic year. But when you see 2020, it was a major challenge for everybody in the world. So it was the first, it was a major crisis. So when you have to lead a company in this storm, it was not so easy. And I remember I write a letter to all of my customers and all of my grape suppliers to say, no worry, we go through 2 big world war. We go through the petrol crisis. Joseph Perrier will survive this crisis, even though we don't know when it will stop. So, because it was in April 2020, and it was very, very unusual. But it was also easy for me because at this time, my father, thanks to his age, didn't came at all to the office because it was all the people who was at home. So that's why it helps me this period to take the whole control, because in 2019 he got to retirement. But when you have a father, 5th generation, still in the region, still not working anymore officially, he always want to travel, to be the royal ambassador of the brand. So it was easy for me because it let me the place. But this period was also helpful to be the real manager of Joseph Perrier.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things that did surprise me when I went to visit you last year was learning that you're the only Maison in Châlons-en-Champagne, which was once a bustling centre for trade in Northern Europe. Due to its proximity to the Marne River, despite the Maison's very long history, I feel that we're just getting to understand it more. I think, since you've really come into the fold, it seems like you've really elevated the story of the Maison. For example, during my visit, I was pleasantly surprised to see some very good Brut Nature champagnes in your range, which really challenged my thinking on the Blanc de Noir style. There's also been a lot of other progress happening in terms of sourcing fruit, some winemaking tweaks, but also the Maison seems to be taking on more of an ambassadorial role for the region with some significant investments in new and very beautiful visitor centre. So can you explain a little bit more about the history of the Maison, but also why is investing in preserving this history been so important for you?
But first of all, you introduced this question. We are the only Maison. Thank you to say the only Maison in Châlons-en-Champagne and not the last one. Because, yes, by the past, there is plenty of different houses in Châlons-en-Champagne. Thanks to, 2 centuries ago, there is 85,000 hectares in Champagne. And we had some vineyards around Châlons-en-Champagne. Nowadays, they don't have because it's like very flat and there is no hill. So it's not very interesting.
Ideal.
Yeah.
So
when we decided to open a visitor center, we decided to work with some historian on our archive because we never moved. Since 1827, Joseph Perrier was always in Châlons-en-Champagne in 69 Avenue de Paris. We were in the center of Châlons-en-Champagne before during 2 years and we moved to 69 Avenue de Paris and since then we never moved. So, the family, I don't know when if it is exactly the same in all the family, but we don't like to trash anything.
Yeah.
So I have plenty of archives. Some of them was absolutely not interesting and some of them was like a treasure, I remember if we talk about Australia, for example, we have the first letter of Dan Murphy, or the first order on Dan Murphy in 1953, something like that.
Incredible.
Or another letter of Dan Murphy himself to congratulate my father to be general manager of Joseph Perrier in 1978. So plenty of small stories. So we have plenty of things, plenty of archive, and maybe we numbered 1,500 archive on, I don't know how much we have. And on 1,500 archive we numbered, we only exposed in our visitor center 300, which is okay. But when you know that, we can continue to change all the things. But I am Benjamin Fourmon. Maybe, I will be there just a few times, maybe 30 years, maybe 40 years. I don't know how long I will work at Joseph Perrier. But for me, I am a passeur de temps. It's a very French word, but I am somebody, the company I hope, will continue after me. I don't know if it will be my children. I don't know. I have 2 boys, but maybe not, but I don't want to make them some pressure.
Yes.
Like my father did by the past with me. I never expected to work at Joseph Perrier. So it is the role of my grandmother to tell me it could be great if you get your degree and your certification to be a grower. So I am a passeur de temps and Joseph Perrier, I want to continue. It's like a jewel, like a diamond. I want to continue to polish this nice diamond, which is in Châlons-Champagne.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful homage, not only to the Maison, but also to the region, because it is, as you say, so historically significant to Champagne. I want to get more onto the actual wine side of the Maison. So the style of Joseph Perrier is more, for me, on the spectrum of ripeness, beautiful toastiness, combined with really nice tension and finesse. So can you elaborate on this style a little bit more and what sources of fruit or winemaking decisions are helping to achieve this?
I think our style and our wine grew me, I am only au garde à vous of Nathalie Laplèche. Nathalie Laplèche is our chef de cave since January 2017. She's a passionate woman who have a vision on the wine. I always say to create a good champagne, you need good grapes. It's good grapes. You need a good chef de cave and time. Good grapes is maybe the easiest things to find. But, I always, and I like to say that it's not from me, but from Nathalie, Benjamin, 1 wine plus 1 wine is not equal to 2 wine. If you take a very good Pinot and very good Chardonnay, you blend, you will have a very good Pinot and Chardonnay wine. But sometimes you have Meunier, a very good Pinot Noir and quite flat Chardonnay. It could be a very amazing wine. And the fact is, a grower, the job of a nice grower is to produce very good fruits, to produce good wine. But to elaborate champagne is another job. and it's very complicated. And my vision is there is not so many people in this world who know how to elaborate champagne, have the vision, how you will aging on lees, which kind of lees, how you do it in vats, in barrel, what the impact of the vinification, the first vinification and the champagnisation is two worlds, which is very close much to each other. And it is the most difficult thing. So how we change our mindset, it's Natalie who say, okay, for me, there is a lack of, I will not give you any secret, but in Joseph Perrier, I like your style, but how we can grow. And also, it's very important she didn't want to change our style. She just want to elaborate a little bit more and to continue on the finesse. We are not a Pinot, Chardonnay or Meunier house. In our estate, we have 23 hectares of vineyards. We have a third of each. So I like to say, there is some Maison who say, we are 100% Pinot, we are Pinot style. So we know how to elaborate in the Marne Valley and a little in Bassuet, the good grapes of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir and Meunier. And it is for us very important because we are a grower and négociant, which is a good combination because we know how to elaborate some grapes with Patrick Martin, our vineyards director since 40 years. And we know how to buy some grapes with nice grower who work well. And we have a long-term relationship. Most of the 70 different growers we are working with them since more than 10 years. And most of them is more than 50 years. We never lost them. It's not, it's a trustful relationship. We have sometimes some problematics, some questions because, when the generation change, everybody wants to know what's happened because there is not so many partner of us who say, we want to change like that. Nobody want to change. And when they change for somebody else, it's happened to me. Some of old friend of another house, old partner of another family house came to me. It was 8 months of discussion to have the vision, what we want to achieve. A change like that doesn't happen so many times in Champagne. It's the relationship. We are the only sector where the relationship between people is sometimes much more important of price, of etc. So it's very important to have that in your mind, in our mind.
Yeah. So it's basically you're saying you're very much, a Maison of the blend, and really everything is so important to you. And that's how you ultimately elaborate that style that you are known for. But I guess just getting on to some more specifics that I've noticed anyway is Cumère, for example. Cumère fruit, specifically from Le Côte d'Ivoire, is very important to your DNA. It's historically important, located on the banks of the Marne River with full southern exposure. It provides a very specific kind of Pinot Noir. And I wanted to know from you, what is the historical connection to this village for your Maison? And what do you think that Cumère is bringing to your champagnes?
Cumère is a house and it is the heart of the family, because Paul Pitois, my great-great-grandfather, bought a house in 1850 in Cumère and became a grower before buying Joseph Perrier to his cousin, Émile Armand Perrier in 1888. So during 38 years, he was grower in Cumère with 10 hectares before to be the owner of Joseph Perrier. So Cumère is very important for us because in all of our cuvées, we have some Cumère inside. Sometimes it's Chardonnay from Cumère, sometimes it's Pinot Noir. At Joseph Perrier, in our estate in Cumère, we only have Pinot Noir or Chardonnay. Why we choose La Côte d'Ivoire and what brings Pinot Noir from Cumère in our blending? Freshness. Pinot Noir in Cumère, even they are on the south exposure, bring freshness inside the freshness of the Pinot. If you take Pinot from Ambonnay-Bouzy, it's very large, very rich. Here in Cumère, the Pinot from Cumère is much more dry and very mineral. We can say it's Chardonnay style of the Pinot,
Yeah.
No, it's a nonsense. If Natalie hear this podcast, she says, you're crazy. So, no, what I'm trying to say. So, Cumère is the roots and it's important in our blending. So that's why we want to, it was not an idea from me. It's an idea of my father in 2007 to say, it would be an idea to make 100% Pinot Noir champagne from a single plot, La Côte d'Ivoire, in Cumère. And he chose this one because it was the eastest plot of Cumère, close to Hauvillers, and Cumère and Hauvillers were plot around there. So maybe it was the first step and the first step of how we can produce, which village is very important for us now as a grower. So Cumières-la-Côte-d'Armor was the first single vineyards. And we will add, maybe it's a secret, but nobody will hear that. Now we will add two other single vineyards of two other nice plots. One from another Cumières, it's Les Chalmons 100% Chardonnay, will arrive soon. It's single vineyard champagne from Chardonnay from Cumières. Chardonnay in Cumières is not very common because I think 85% is planted in Pinot Noir. There's some Pinot Meunier and the rest is Chardonnay. So Chardonnay represents 10 to 15% of the Cumières vineyard. So it's not so many. And it's like an homage of my father because I don't know, but since 25 years, Cumières Chardonnay is always in specific vats and he always want to be tried by my father outside. So each plot of Cumières have a single vat and he try Les Chalmons, he try Le Pont-à-la-Fenelle. It's Ovillé, but all the Chardonnay from the Cumières Ovillé is always well identified in our vat room. So it's very important. It's like clin d'œil and it's very interesting because it's very different. I hope you will try soon.
Yes,
it's not yet ready.
I would love to.
And the last thing is our Meunier. Our Meunier is the nicest Meunier for Joseph Perrier. It's from Verneuil and a nice plot named Le Ciergelot. It's quite a huge lieu-dit and we have big plot there, but we choose only the curve it was 80, we have 2.2 hectares in Le Ciergelot and we only choose 0.80 hectares to produce a single vineyard from Le Ciergelot, 100% Meunier, which will be ready a little bit sooner than the Chardonnay. Chardonnay need a little bit more time to have all the expression, but Meunier will be ready because it's a vintage 2020. It will be ready end of the year.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see some new special cuvées coming out from Joseph Perrier, really celebrating those single varietals. I just wanted to go maybe a little bit further on Cumières though, because you have produced some very nice Brut Nature champagnes from Cumières. Cumières is very special because, just maybe elaborating a bit more on what you were saying about the freshness from Cumières, but at the same time it produces incredible ripeness. Yes. So there's that lovely paradox that always exists, I think, with Cumières, is that you can have champagnes with low or no dosage, but also, still with ripeness and freshness at the same time. So it provides a lot of opportunities. But it's also quite unusual to see a Maison really honing in on the Brut Nature style like you have. And you've produced two cuvées that are Brut Nature. So you've got the Cuvée Royale Brut Nature, which is a blend of the three main varietals. Yes. And then you've got the Parcellaire called Le Côte d'Armor, and that's a vintage. So I just wanted to, know from you, what are some of the key considerations that go into making a really good Brut Nature champagne? Because there are quite a lot out there on the market. Some are better than others. Most of them are pretty austere and a lot of people can't palate them. So what is it that you're doing to make really good Brut Nature?
It's a combination of savoir-faire and sometimes a little bit of secrets. The decision to produce a Brut Nature was took with Nathalie when she arrived in January 2017. I tell her when I arrived at Joseph Perrier, I was sales representative in Paris. And, Brut Nature at this time was not so popular and Brut Nature was also popular for people where the champagne is mature market, people who already drink plenty of Brut, etc. And for connoisseurs, because sometimes Brut Nature, so champagne with no sugar, plenty of people was a bit scared about that because Brut Nature, everybody and all the people who will listen to us will say, we know what is Brut Nature, but Brut Nature is zero dosage, so no sugar added. And it was a challenge for us. So when we talked to Nathalie, she told me we need to, because some house produce a Brut and a Brut Nature with the same blending. I think the most secret is when you want to create a wine with no sugar added at the end during the disgorgement process, you need to imagine it will be a champagne with no sugar added. So you have to make some decisions on the blending. So our approach to that was to use Chardonnay as the majority in our blending. So we have sometimes it depends 50 to 70% of Chardonnay. The last one, I think in the blending, I don't remember, 2017, I think, Harvest Basis, or 2018, with 62% of Chardonnay, a little bit of Pinot Meunier, not not a little bit, 24% of Pinot Meunier and the rest of Pinot Noir. That's the last blending. We decided to age between 18 to 36 months more than the Brut, Cuvée Royale Brut, because when your champagne spend times on the lees aging, your champagne will be more fruity, not too sweety, will be more mineral, like not acid. So time is very important to bring the further aromas of the wine and the reserve wine. The reserve wine, we don't want to, and we don't communicate too much until now on it, but it's a secret, it's like your own. So we have between 20 to 25% of reserve wine inside. Most of them, because is the last 3, 4, sometimes 5 previous harvest. And sometimes it was the first Brut Nature we made, the reserve wine which was used. It was the reserve wine which we used for the reserve wine of the Brut. It was the same reserve wine for the Brut Nature and the Brut.
Sure.
So it was a blending of the 3 next blending of the Cuvée Royale Brut. So nowadays change a little bit, but I don't want to communicate on that yet
enough.
Because you will ask me the next question in next year. You will ask me and I will answer you.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But the reserve wines is an interesting point because I can understand how that makes the wine a lot more approachable. But the Le Côte de Bras, for example, is a vintage.
Yes, it's a vintage.
And so you don't have the benefit of the reserve wine system, but still it's incredibly drinkable. But what I love about it is that for me, it just pulsates with this incredible energy and saltiness, but it's not too much because there's still that ripeness of fruit that comes through. So is it really a question of vintage, the quality of the vintage for you?
No, I think because since the beginning of La Côte de Bras, we always, but it was not in the Cahier des Charges. It is not right in the marble. What I want to say, La Côte de Bras, when we launched it with the vintage 2008, it was in 2015. It was very hard for us, and especially for my father, to decide to put zero dosage, no sugar and Brut Nature for this wine because it was absolutely not a swear. It was not, we never imagined we will produce zero dosage wine with La Côte de Bras. But years after years, because it's a very, the first parcel we pick up in our estate is 95% of the time is La Côte de Bras. Because it's very, very, sorry, my English is terrible, but it's the first, comment on dit, it's, I don't know why, since now 2008, it's always the first 2-3 days of harvest we pick up the grapes of La Côte de Bras because the maturity is at the top.
Yeah.
And there is some hard vintage, more complicated vintage. I can say 2011. It was much more complicated than 08, 09, which is very, very matured. But years after years, we make some taste with some dosage inside the wine to know if we will launch it with in Brut Nature, Extra Brut or Brut. It was not, but every year it's work with no sugar added. So it is hard to say why it is. I think there is another secret. This champagne needs 6 to 12 months with the cork before drinking it. Sometimes it was not respected. Sometimes we are a little bit in a hurry, but the perfect revelation is after 12 months with the cork.
Post-disgorgement age makes a big difference.
Yes, a little bit difference.
Yeah, okay. So the other terroir that I wanted to talk to you about is, the role of Chardonnay from Bassuet was playing in your champagnes. And so your chef de cave, Natalie, had mentioned that to me last time that I saw her as to, her answer for, some of the, I guess, slightly refined character that she's trying to bring to your champagnes. But also she mentioned that she feels that this is bringing some freshness to the blends, which is really important in this time and day where there are some challenges around climate change. So Bassuet is, of course, located in the Vitriac, which is further south of Châlons-en-Champagne. We don't talk about it very much, though. It's not really sexy terroir yet. Exactly. So I think there's a nice time to talk about it, and why not? So can you maybe discuss what that terroir really is and what is it bringing to your blends?
It's a magical terroir. Yeah. Honestly, there's a funny story about that for us because in 1968, it was the first revision of the appellation Champagne. It was increasing. There's one Vitria guy who say, in Champagne it's very important to know when you have the land, if you don't have the right to plant, you can't plant any vineyards. So it is distinct. You have the land. Yes. But if you don't have the right to plant vine in your land, you can plant. Yes. So who had the land, who had the right to plant in 1968, 69? It was a house. all these things was managed by the Comité Champagne.
Yes.
And honestly, my father will explain better than me this period, especially because it was not at the head of the house at this time, but it was closer to the entry. But the right of plantation was given to the biggest seller at this time. I hope Charles Gomer don't hear me and say, "What are you saying, Benjamin?" No, but it was this kind of thing. So when you are selling a lot of bottle of champagne, you have some lands. All the right to plant was given to the house. So when you have a land and you need to find it, you go to make a round to say, "Hello, my name is Monsieur Dupont. I would like to Laurent Perrier, to Tétinger, to Joseph Perrier, to Bollinger, to all the house at this time, to find people and house who want to follow you and plant the vineyard, give the right to plant and have some contract between you." And so it was the first step. Why we go to Bassuet? It is because one day a guy who want to go to Épernay say, "Oh, there is a house in Chalon." Stop in Chalon. Enter in which is my office today, but it was Georges Pitois. Say, "Hello, my name is Monsieur X. I don't want to give the name. I have 10 hectares of land and I have no right to plant anything. So could you help me?" I said, "There is no problem." And that's why it was the first step for us to put a feed there. And that's why nowadays we have 2 hectares in Bassuet, thanks to that. And at this time, new Champagne region. Sorry, I put some guillemets, because it's not new region, because it's the previous one who come back to the appellation. Nobody want to go there, especially house from the Marne. Say, "Oh, why we are going there? Where the Vallée de la Marne, la Côte des Blancs, la Montagne de Resse is perfect." And during 25 years, not so many people want to buy some grapes from Bassuet because it was okay. Au Vitrier region, let's say Bassuet, but Vanneau-le-Châtel, there is plenty of different village.
Yes.
Vitrier is like Côte des Blancs. You have plenty of different village. Nobody knows exactly. I like Bassu, I like Saint-Amand, I like, it's not the same exposure. It's not exactly the same grapes. And it was the beginning of a strong relationship for us with this region and Joseph Perrier, because we are very close to them, because it's 30 minutes from Châlons-Champagne. And it was for us one of the biggest appro for Chardonnay, because we have close to 20 hectares there now with partnership. And it's bring to our Blanc de Blanc the specificity of freshness, of little bit of complexity. And when you add a little bit of Côte des Blancs from Chouilly, very, very traditional Côte des Blancs village, Bergère-les-Vertus, Avis, Cramant, Auger, Le Mesnil, etc., which is very nice. But like, when you bring some grapes, especially now, because all the vineyard which was planted 50 years ago and 30 years ago, because there is 2 time, 71, 68, end of 80s. So it's 2 time of plantation. The vineyards now has 30, 20, 30, 40, 50 years with no disease. There is no cornway at all there compared to la Marne, la Côte des Blancs. The grapes is very good now.
Healthier.
And I think Joseph Perrier, very humble, not me, but Joseph Perrier helps to Le Vitrier to be well known, because my father and Georges Pitois trust to this region, trust to this nice hill. There is plenty of nice hill. And it is now very important, and maybe the most important grapes for the style of Joseph Perrier, except for La Côte d'Ivoire.
Of course. It's an interesting modern story, really, for the Maison. And so it's really interesting. I hear similar stories actually with other producers discovering new terroir that maybe in the past they haven't been particularly keen on, because maybe it hasn't achieved the level of ripeness that they wanted, or maybe it hasn't produced the sort of style that they wanted. But now with some of the warming aspects of the climate, it's creating a whole other world of opportunities that it is possible to achieve great ripeness, or it is possible to achieve the sort of stylistic influence that you would like to eventually bring into your cuvée. So it's really, I think, making people think more laterally, more widely about what the possibilities are in these less desirable or less sexy locations, for some of, the traditional varietals. So, we've gone through a little bit of, what's happening, and you've elaborated that you've got a few parcellaire cuvées coming out, which is amazing. Are there any other considerations, that you're casting your mind to at the moment for Joseph Perrier? Any changes or refinements or additions that you're making at the moment?
Yeah, 2025 will be a very important year for us, not because of the UNESCO, not because of UNESCO, but it is also because we will celebrate our 200th anniversary next year. So yes, we will have, since now close to 10 years, we are working on something special for 200th anniversary. We will have limited edition for this for specific wine, specific blending, something a bit secret, but it was, Natalie was not there for the blending. It was not Natalie, but we do that like with my father. It would be only Magnum and Jeroboam's. Very interesting wine, vintage.
Yes.
I don't know if I have that.
Don't let the cat out the bag. But it sounds really exciting.
No, it would be very exciting to have only 2 formats, Magnum and Gero, for this wine.
Okay.
We tasted several times now. It will be disgorged this week or next week. So it's on it. It's good. And next year will be a major year for Joseph. And I was so excited to be a part of. No worry, my father will be a part of also.
Of course.
Everybody, all the family will be a part of. And so no, I will have a small plot to my grandmother next year, but, and all my great grandfather and everybody, because, centenary is, 200 years. It's incredible.
It's epic. Yeah. And just amazing. And, what a wonderful legacy that the Maison has had. And, you clearly have got a strong future ahead of you with initiatives such as these and so many others in the pipeline as well. Mm. So the champagnes are looking also really good, very interesting. And I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up once again.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It was a pleasure for me.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Benjamin. Vine & Bubble is a boutique and independent information source dedicated exclusively to telling the real story of champagne. It was launched by me, Sarah Underdown, in November 2018, after almost a decade of working in the champagne industry as a recognised writer, educator and presenter. Vine & Bubble brings together a network of Australian wine journalists, sommeliers, educators and industry representatives as regular contributors. As a team of champagne lovers and communicators, we are thrilled to share our united passion with wine-loving audiences. To read more about champagne, to subscribe to events in Australia and learn more about opportunities to join us for experiences in champagne, visit vineandbubble.com and register your details.